He joins us every Wednesday, Andy Raymond Unfiltered. That's his podcast as well as his official handle. Last week, a little bit hungover, went down the pub for a bet, came back 3 days later, and that's because the beloved, she was away. And so he behaved like a man for the first time that he can, since the last time he can remember that he actually was one. Andy, welcome back.
Yeah, no, good to be back. Lovely to have the wife home too. Absolute delight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Was there a list involved at any time?
No, but I know what's important before the wife does get home. There's a couple of things that are deal breakers, and then every man should take note of these.
Right,
One,
writing them down, mate.
Simply, you don't have to make the bed,
yes,
but make the bed look orderly.
That's it. Okay, yeah. I'll tell you, what is that? I don't understand that. If women who are listening, please tell us, because I'm cohabitating now, and look, I'm duvet on, and duvet stays there till duvet gets cleaned, okay? And I'm a regular washer of the bedding, all right? But I just throw the duvet back on. But no, it's got to be made. Cushions have got to be put in place and all of that, right? And do you know why?
Yep.
Because it doesn't matter how old a woman is. This is my theory on it. Every woman in the world thinks, if my mother comes around, she thinks I'm a dirty slut if I don't make the bed. So they make the bed. That's my it's my dirty slut theory, right?
Fair enough. Now, number two, very simple carpet vacuum. We got two black labs that lose a lot of hair, so do that. And third, and most importantly, but the logical one, clean your computer history. Any sites you may have visited.
God.
Because I fear if she got home and went through my computer history, I would end up in some type of institution.
Well, I mean, the problem, exactly the problem is that she would realise that you've been supporting teams that you said you've hated over years, right?
Well, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Speaking of which, West Tigers have sacked their board, sacked their CEO. What does this actually mean for the team and going forward? What does it mean for Benji Marshall?
I don't know. Does it mean more uncertainty? Because they don't know who is in charge. They've got a couple of guys in Barry O'Farrell and Shane Richardson on an interim basis. I don't know whether off-field happenings have an effect on-field players. I think it is largely an excuse when teams and when individuals are going badly. We all point to and say, well, how can they win and how can they concentrate if the football manager's just been sacked or the board is split on a vote or the CEO's just been reported to human resources. I think it's a cop-out more times than not. Look, sure, you'd love stability in any business, but I think it's used as a cop-out for when teams just suck. I think they're looking for someone to blame.
I started the show espousing about this and said that they have had 8 coaching changes in the last 10 years. They've been back-to-back wooden spooners. So I suppose something's got to give. And in most sports teams and institutions, you get rid of the coach. Well, you can't get rid of the coach because they've tried that, and that has failed. We have a similar situation going on here, and I'll draw the parallel with New Zealand rugby, and that they had a review before the World Cup where they were criticised as being not fit for purpose, and the whole government structure come under question and things. Yet the same people are still there, and the same people are now going to make decisions about whether or not to implement the recommendations of the review. So what you're asking is you're asking the turkey to behead itself for Christmas, aren't you? So I kind of think if you're a West Tigers fan, and this is the only perspective I'm bringing on this, Andy, because I don't care about the board or whoever was on it. I'm only thinking if you're a Tigers fan, where does it leave you right now?
Okay, if you're a Tigers fan, what it does do, it gives you some hope, because the majority of Tigers fans on this side of the ditch fed up with the mediocrity, fed up with the garbage, fed up with the coaches in, out, sacked, let go, let's let this player go. They're fed up with what was an incompetent system in running a business, let alone a footy club. That's what they're fed up with. So what this does for the fans, which is terrific, it gives them hope. Doesn't make it a better football team, doesn't increase their chances next year, does none of that. But what it does, it puts a smile temporarily on the face of the fans. And they're long-suffering fans, the Tigers fans, back-to-back wooden spoons. They've had every reason to whinge, bitch and moan. Well, one of those reasons has now been taken away. Reality is, when it comes to round number 1 next year, it's still the same footy side.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's not going to change. The positive, mate, it has to get better because it can't get worse. It simply cannot get any worse.
Yeah.
Whether better is finishing 16th in a 17-team competition or finishing 10th or making the semi-finals, it has to get better. It simply can't get worse. So there's your positive, Tigers fans. And that sounds cruel, and I don't mean to be cruel because you guys have struggled enough, poor Tigers fans, but it's got to get better. That's logic.
Before we move on, just quickly on this, and I was watching some Australian news coverage today. I'm just going to play that to you, right?
The entire board has been removed. That includes high-profile chairman Lee Hadjibantelis, who was also the club's major sponsor. CEO Justin Pascoe also resigning today. Now, this comes after an internal review into the club's governance and culture. That review was called for by fans, more than 1,000 fans who put pen to paper, disappointed with the club's on-field performance, which of course includes back-to-back wooden spoons.
Okay, so you get a bit of fan power in there. I was watching a little clip today. Michelle Bishop, I think she does a radio show, SEN radio, or she might be a reporter that was on a radio show out of Sydney anyway. And she echoed what I kind of feel like. I was a Balmain fan back in the day, Benny Elias and Big Ciro and Mick and Block and obviously Gary Freeman, the Wiz. And she said that she kind of left, same as I did. I patched over to the Warriors because I didn't like the merger with Wests. My question being is, are the West Tigers more popular now, or were they more popular as Balmain?
Well, they were more popular as Balmain and as Western Suburbs. Now, you have a look at the last couple of years, mate. These mergers don't work. It made economic sense at the time for the Magpies and the Tigers. It made economic sense at the time for the Dragons and the Steelers. But both clubs still, all these years later, and in the Dragons' case, 25 years later, are still having boardroom issues.
Good Lord.
People can't let go of their little position and their little bit of power. They can't let go of that for the betterment of the club. And this is going to be a generational thing for both these clubs and for any future mergers. It is going to take until the generation that supported the Magpies or supported the Tigers is well into retirement, and the new board members and the new decision makers didn't have a Balmain or a Western Suburbs allegiance.
Right.
It's a long fix, but both clubs are, they are littered with off-field garbage and poor decisions, bad governance. Not a coincidence. Not a coincidence.
Two more topics to talk about. We're going to get on to Usman Khawaja in a second in the net test. I know. All right, but before we do that, Paul Kent has been found not guilty. Now, this sport echoes back to me of Sean Kenny Dowell, who was accused of all kinds of domestic assaults by a past girlfriend years back, and it eventually came out in court that this is what she had done several times, like she'd been dating these guys, and then all of a sudden when it all went wrong, she kind of accused them of things and went to court. Now, I don't know whether Kent was guilty or not. He was charged with strangulation or something, but he's been found not guilty, which means by law he's not guilty, which means you would think by employment law he gets those high-profile jobs back on NRL 360 and the Telegraph. Is that going to happen, do you think?
I don't know, mate. I don't know how that will be looked upon, and it would be looked upon from the very top downwards.
See, because here in New Zealand, he wouldn't get the jobs back, I guarantee you. There's no way he would.
Yeah, I think he may struggle, but, that's a personal opinion, not backed up by any fact, by any tip or by any knowledge of the law. I think he'll struggle. I think it would be an easier return to a newspaper column.
Yeah.
Than it would be fronting a television show.
Yeah, look, you'd get every screamer in the place here in New Zealand. I mean, there's no way that if that was Sky Sport that they would ever bring him back, even the fact he'd been found not guilty. So, yeah, I'm just interested as to how that would actually apply in Australia. Which, if he is completely innocent of this, how fair is that? How much justice is there in that apart from none? But let's finish on Usman Khawaja, because you groaned like I groaned when I saw this story. And what it is, people, is that Khawaja is adamant that when the test starts in Perth tomorrow against Pakistan, that he's going to wear on his shoes some kind of slogans which are pro-Palestinian. Now, let me just read you what the ICC regulations are here. Players and team officials, and this is quoting off the ICC website, shall not be permitted to wear, display or otherwise convey personal messages on their clothing, equipment or otherwise, irrespective of whether such messages are affixed to clothing, equipment or otherwise, and whether such messages are displayed or conveyed through the use of specific clothing or other items. Approval should not be granted ever for messages which relate to political, religious or racial activities or causes, and the ICC have the final say in determining whether any such message is approved. That says to me that he's not allowed to do it and he won't be allowed to do it. And I think that's a good thing, that he's not allowed to do this.
I think it's a great thing that he's not allowed to do this. That the rules are there. They are very clear. And cricket traditionally, globally, has stuck to the rules almost to the point where many could suggest cricket hasn't moved with the times. But they're very steadfast in what they believe. And on this occasion, I believe they're right. Nothing infuriates and disgusts me more than athletes playing the political game. And for an Aussie cricketer to voice his opinion on something like this, I just think it's not on. I don't think it's necessary either. I applaud Usman for having a very firm stance.
Which he's allowed to do, which every human is allowed to do. But, you have plenty of other ways. Look, we had the same arguments and disputes about Ruby Tui over here, who decided not to participate in a Weet-Bix Kids card program because she wanted to wear a rainbow colours, and the rugby union came up with some kind of fudge excuse about it, didn't have time or whatever. But the reality of it is listen, you don't run the joint, you don't own the joint, you're an employee, and our policy is we do not use these teams, our national teams, to make political statements. You can make them on your social media, you can protest however you want, but these teams cannot ever drive down that road because it is just a road full of pit holes and potholes, and it is a controversy that doesn't need to happen, in my opinion.
It just doesn't need to happen. You're exactly right. It can be avoided, so it should be avoided. It's one less drama. I think you put it rightfully and perfectly then. Uzi, if you want to go and do it on your social media, or if you want to pay for advertising, whatever, go for your life. But when you walk onto the cricket field, you are actually an employee. Here are the rules, and this is how we do it.
And you're representing all of Australia, and guess what? In Australia, there are citizens from all of the countries involved in this conflict, and you are representing each one of those people. All right, let's finish then on a real positive note. Parramatta next season. I mean, I'm just saying. No, please. Come on, don't be like that. That's Christmas. Don't be like that, mate. Come on. Parramatta. Big Bob is sitting here. He's desperate for you to say something positive and happy about the Eels next year.
I really like their home and away jerseys. There's a bit of positivity.
Tom, mate, come on, top 8. You've got to be 8.
100%. We'll be in the top 8. Don't worry about that. The mighty Parramatta Eels will be in the top 8. What I'm looking forward to even more than top 8 predictions is when we get back into it and I start talking to you early next year and we listen to every coach and we listen to every player saying, never been as fit, never had as good a pre-season. This is it. This is it. This is the pre-season. And all of our hopes and all of our dreams, they get built up early March.
I've been hanging out for this comp, mate. Have you missed it? I've missed it. Like, this is the great thing about the NRL comp, isn't it? Is that it gives you an opportunity to miss it. Rugby never does this. Rugby can't learn its own lesson. You've got to miss it. You've got to miss it, and then you want it. Yeah. It's like you with her. Right. That's what you said when she
to a degree.
Came back.
To a degree.
Have a lovely Christmas, won't you? Very safe and happy New Year. I thank you for all that you have given us this year, my friend. Brilliant.
To you and to Lockie and the entire team at the platform, it's been an absolute pleasure once again to anyone listening that may have had a giggle or a chuckle or argued with me over the course of the year. Thank you very much for your support. Please have a wonderful Christmas, but make it a safe one so we can do it all again in 24 Legends.